Welcome everybody. So I'm just going to start. Welcome everyone to today's session. We're having two parts in today's session. In the beginning, I'm going to talk a little bit about Ramayana Samkshepam, and that is the first part of today's event, which will be followed by a talk by Guruji Venu on the second gesture from Hastalakshanadipika, MUDRAKHYA. So I'm just going to briefly introduce myself. I'm Kapila Venu. I'm a practitioner of Kutiyattam and Nangyar Kuttu. And I'm the daughter of Venu G. And I'm also his disciple. And I have trained also under our Guru Amanur Madhava Chakyarashan, Guru Usha Nangyar, Guru Venu, Guru Amanur Kuttanjakyar, and in Mohiniyattam under my mother and Guru Srimati Nirmala Panikar. This is me. So I'm just going to directly go into my short talk. So for our very varied audience, I think it's important that I start off by giving a small introduction to Kuttu and Kutiyattam, and then go into the language of these theatre and storytelling traditions, and go into Ramayana Samkshepam after that. So Kuttu and Kutiyattam. In Malayalam, we say Kuttum Kudiyattavum. This is a family of traditions of theatre and storytelling in Kerala. Kuttu and Kutiyattam are theatre and storytelling traditions of Kerala. They have a very long history, even though the history of the evolution of these art forms is not very, very clearly documented. We know from various sources gathered from literature and various records, temple records, various records in other kinds of texts, give us the impression that these art forms have a very long history of more than 2000 years, or the predecessors of these art forms. So basically what we know as Kutiyattam today is a cluster of art forms. One is Kutiyattam itself, which is the dramatic representation of Sanskrit plays, Sanskrit drama, Natya, and this is practiced by the male actors called Chakyar, female actors Nangyar, percussionists and stage managers and storytellers Nambiyar. Parallelly, we have storytelling tradition Chakyar Kuttu, Prabandha Kuttu, which is the male storytelling tradition using the voice in the regional language. Then we have Nangyar Kuttu, which is the female storytelling tradition using Abhinaya and gesture performed by the Nangyars. Then we have Pathakam, another kind of storytelling, which is practiced by the Nambiyar community. And we also, so we have theatre and storytelling. And this used to be performed inside the Kuttambalam, the temple theatre halls. And it gradually became a part of the temple rituals in many major temples in Kerala. And for the last many centuries, it was practiced and preserved in the temples of Kerala as ritualistic performances in the temple. But we do know that these art forms originally originated perhaps outside the temple in different kinds of venues, and then it was adapted into the temple rituals, and then it was preserved in the temples for many centuries, passed on, and which is why it survived the many social, political changes that happened in Kerala. So in the Kuttambalam, so what we know as Kudiyattam today, the acting technique evolved with a strong influence of the space in which it was performed and vice versa. So basically, Kudiyattam, the language of Kudiyattam, the aesthetics of Kudiyattam is designed in a way that it can cater to a maximum of 200 to 300 people in a small space on a low stage where people can sit and watch closely. So the movements are very intricate and something that needs to be watched in a very protected space, in a very protected environment, with in a very close distance. The main element in the theatre language of Kudiyattam is the gesture, whether it is for the dramatic representation or for the storytelling. The gesture is the main medium of communication, and it almost seems like the entire physicality of the art form is designed in a way to hold the gesture. So when I say gesture, we primarily think of the hand gesture, but we know that gesture is not just limited to the hand, to the palms, but to the entire body. But in this case, the gestures of the hand are particularly important, and the rest, the entire physicality, the way the body is held, the way the hands, the way the proportion of the body is designed, the way the tensions are held in the different parts of the body, everything is done in a way that the gesture gets all the attention, and the meaning of the gesture is properly projected and conveyed. So in Kudiyattam, we have texts. The primary text is in Sanskrit, and then the elaborate acting manual is in Malayalam, and all the words and this entire text, the primary text and the acting manual, is then translated into the gesture, and that is the process of the theatre. That is how it becomes performance. So the gesture is the main element. And coming to Ramayana Samkshepam, basically Ramayana Samkshepam is the story, the Ramayana, that is Samkshepam means abridged. So it is a small, it is an abridged version of the Ramayana told through hand gestures continuously in the same, without any major elaborations. It's just simply the story constructed through sentences, and the entire story from the beginning of the Surya Vamsha until Sri Rama leaves his body as Sri Rama and returns to Kshirabdhi and is reclining on as Anantashayi, as Mahavishnu with Lakshmi and Dhatri. So the entire story in between is told in short, simple sentences. So it is not a story in which there are any elaborations in particular. The entire story is told with the same, as a very matter of fact, from event to event. And if you do it at a stretch, and this entire Atta Prakaram is enacted through gestures, and when performed at a stretch, it could take about 3 hours to go through the entire Ramayana Samkshepam. So Ramayana Samkshepam is something in Kutiyattam that is very important as very important in the training process. So actually, I'm going to talk about Ramayana Samkshepam in two from two angles. One, the Ramayana Samkshepam is actually a part of a performance of a Kutiyattam called Anguliyangam Kuttu, called Anguliyangam Kuttu. The Ramayana Samkshepam, the abridged Ramayana, comes within the Anguliyangam Kuttu performance. But as a performance, it's placed there, but just by the fact that it includes so many hand gestures, and in by itself, it is a whole and complete, something that and that it talks about the entire Ramayana. So it is actually used while training actors, both male and female, as a way to transmit gestures, because the Ramayana Samkshepam is also composed in a way that it includes almost 95% of all hand gestures used in Kutiyattam. So there are a few hand gestures that are not included in the Ramayana Samkshepam, that do not appear in the Ramayana Samkshepam, but otherwise, when a student has studied the Ramayana Samkshepam completely, he or she is acquainted with more or less all gestures that are used in Kutiyattam, and also the system of gesticulation in Kutiyattam. So it is not like each word has a specific gesture. There are also certain systems by which, for example, how to use the Nama Mudra. So all names have one gesture. So whether it's Janaka, whether it is Ayodhya, whether it is Lanka, all these names have one gesture, and that is the Nama Mudra. So like this, there are certain, and how to use the Nama Mudra, how to use the various vibhaktis and vachanas, and how to construct phrases, how to translate phrases into gestures. And all these techniques are also passed on with the gesture. So they're not only just learning Surya, Raja, or the different words, but also how to use the language of gesture to construct phrases or to translate various different types of ideas, words, and sentences into gesture. So the Ramayana Samkshepam is in that way a very important teaching tool, and all students who learn Kutiyattam traditionally are taught the Ramayana Samkshepam, even if they have not yet learned Anguliyangam Kuttu, the performance by itself. They are still taught the Ramayana Samkshepam in the initial stages of the training. And since it is Ramayanam, there is a practice in the Karkadaga Masam, that is now during the rainy season, which is also known as the Ramayana Masam in Kerala, where everybody reads the Ramayanam in every household. Actors practice Ramayana Samkshepam a bit by bit every day, continuously, and then repeat over and over. So this is a practice in the training. So just to tell you about the Ramayana Samkshepam within performance, we have a performance called Anguliyangam. So the peculiarity of Ramayana Samkshepam is that the story of the Ramayana in the Ramayana Samkshepam is not following Valmiki Ramayanam, but it follows the Ramayana as constructed when you put three plays together. That is Ashcharya Chudamani, Pratima Natakam, and Abhisheka Natakam. So actually in Kerala, there used to be a tradition where the entire Ramayana was performed over this course of one year by putting three different plays together. So we start with Ashcharya Chudamani, go on to Pratima Natakam, and finish with Abhisheka Natakam. And this was a practice which was not very common or done very often, but there was this practice of performing the entire Ramayana through this one whole year of performance. And it used to be done on special occasions, like for when a young prince is going to be coronated as the new king. As a part of his education, he was expected to watch the entire Ramayana play, that is in Kutiyattam. So in very such rare occasions, this 1 year long performance used to be staged. And the story of the Ramayana Samkshepam follows the story of how for basically Chudamani, Pratima and Abhishekam have many deviations from Valmiki Ramayanam in the story. For example, there is no golden deer. We have the story of Maya Rama, Maya Lakshmana, and so on. And there are slight deviations in the story, and it is this which is followed in the Ramayana Samkshepam itself. Then in the Chudamani, the 6th act is Angulyangam Kut. So in this particular act, Hanuman. So just one thing, this is for the very beginners who might be here. You should know that in Kutiyattam, one act of a play becomes a play in itself. It is not, when I say a play in Sanskrit drama, we have several acts in one play, and that is the entire play. But when you adapt it into Kutiyattam, you take one act of the play and then make a play out of it, make a performance out of it, which runs into several days. So Angulyangam is one Kutta, one adaptation of an act, the 6th act of Ascharya Chudamani. And it is a solo performance of the character Hanuman. The story of that act of the play begins with Hanuman reaching Lanka and looking for Sita, meeting Sita, having the conversation and leaving Lanka. That is the story within the act. But within the representation of this performance, actually Angulyangam Kutta is one of the most complex, has one of the most complex structures of performance in Kutiyattam. So every Kutiyattam play or every Kutiyattam or Kutta has certain common threads in the structure or the construction of the performance. But actually, if you look carefully, every play has its own very complex structure. So Angulyangam Kutta is one very unique performance in which, in the course of Hanuman's visit to Lanka and back, where it play ends where he goes back to meet Rama in the ashrama. Within this play comes a huge nirvahana, which basically incorporates the entire or a large part of the Ramayana through all kinds of elaborations. So it is Angulyangam Kutta is performed as a ritual over 12 days in most temples. And this is probably a recent development where in 12 days, this entire long script is performed, and it's performed very fast in order to finish it within 12 days. But actually the script has the scope of performance for about at least a month. It is a long, elaborate storytelling script that goes into many areas of the Ramayana. So in this Angulyangam Kutta, on the 3rd day of the Angulyangam Kutta, there comes a part when the bird Sambadi, whose wings have been burnt, needs to hear from Jambavan the story of the Ramayana so that he can grow back his wings. So when that comes, so generally Samkshepam comes in the beginning of a performance in Kutiyattam, whether it is a Nirvahanam, mostly in the Nirvahanam. In the very beginning, we have on the first day something called Anukramam, which is a series of questions running backwards into the past. That is the first section, followed by Samkshepam, which begins by telling the very first part of the story, which usually begins with the the telling of the genesis of a particular race, like Surya Vamsham or Soma Vamsham, or whichever particular race that this story belongs to. The Sankshepam usually starts from that very, very, very ancient part of the story and tells the gist of the entire story until the part that is relevant to the play. So that is that is usually Samkshepam in Kutiyattam. So the performance always starts with the Samkshepam, and then you go into the performance. But in Angulyangam, there are many instances where after the Samkshepam of the particular day and then you go into the performance into the part where the elaborate telling begins. There are sequences when you actually have small Samkshepams inserted into particular sequences of the story. So this is one such example in Angulyangam, where in the sequence where somebody needs to hear the entire Ramayana from Jambavan in order to grow wings, the Ramayana Samkshepam comes into the performance as being told from Jambavan to somebody. So when the text comes into the place where somebody has asked Jambavan to tell him the story, and Jambavan says, okay, I will tell you the story, then you perform a small ritual in order to hold the story by itself. So we have something called Kundalam Ittu Mudikkuka. That is a ritualistic kind of, like something like a frame. Kundalam Ittu Mudichu Abhivadyam Cheda, and we perform Abhivadyam, which is like an invocation, which is usually done in the beginning of a performance. So Kundalam Ittu Mudichu Abhivadyam Cheda, and then Engilo Panda Surya Vamsham Undai. Jambavan starts to tell the story of Surya Vamsham, of Ramayana from Engilo Panda Surya Vamsham Undai, and he tells the whole story until the moment where Jatayu dies. Then somebody says, oh, has Jatayu died? Then from Jambavan, the storyteller becomes somebody, and then we have something called Ketaduga. Ketaduga means to hear and enact, which means somebody says, is this what I heard? And then he retells this entire story until the death of Jatayu. Then the story stops there, where somebody then goes to perform the funeral rites of Jatayu. Then he comes back, and then the story restarts, and he goes on, Jambavan goes on telling the story until the part where he says, now Jambavan is telling the story to Jatayu. And then the wings have grown. But even though the wings have, again the story stops there, where somebody has wings, but the wings don't function, they don't move, he cannot fly. And in order to fly, he has to hear the Ramayana in the future, which has not yet happened, but Jambavan knows, but he has to hear it in order to be able to fly. So then again the Ramayana starts, where Jambavan secretly tells somebody the future of the Ramayana, the entire story, by when somebody's wings are functioning again, so that he can fly over the sea and go to Lanka and act according to the story. So this is how the Ramayana Samkshepam is included within performance in the Angulyangam Kutha. So Ramayana Samkshepam is not the only Samkshepam like this in Angulyangam. There are other stories, for example, Rakshasolpatti. The genesis of the Rakshasa race is again such how do you say, a framed story within a performance. Sagarolpatti, Parnashalangam, and Vanarolpatti, the genesis of the monkeys, the apes. So these are few such stories which come within the Angulyangam, and Ramayana Samkshepam is a part of that. That is how it comes in performance and in training. So basically we have this saying that if a male performer traditionally learns Angulyangam Kutha he becomes a capable actor, able to perform or read and understand all other texts. Because the repertoire of Kutiyattam is very, very, very big. So actually learning everything, one actor learning everything is something you can't finish in a lifetime. So basically learning a few things helps the actor understand the language, the structure, the technique, and the various ways that the language of the theater, so that he is able to read other scripts and understand how to create performances. Similarly, for a female performer, it is said that if Nangyar Kutha, if she learns how to do Nangyar Kutha entirely, she becomes capable of performance. And nowadays, I think it should happen vice versa. Women should also learn Angulyangam and backwards. So that is about Ramayana Samkshepam. And then in training, like I said, we use Ramayana Samkshepam as a tool for training to pass on the hand gestures. And just to give you an example, so I'll just give you a little bit more information about gesture and Ramayana Samkshepam. One of the things is that, like I said, the gesture, the hand gesture is the essential language of Kutiyattam, and that the body is really, designed to hold the gesture. And the gestures, basically what we have in Kutiyattam are three different types of texts. The primary text, which is the play, the Sanskrit drama. The second text, which is the elaboration or the performance text called Attaprakaram, the actor's manual, wherein the Sanskrit text is elaborated and the abhinaya is designed or choreographed. So the design of the play is basically the acting manual. And the third text is the Kramadipika, which is the stage manual, which holds all other details about the performance. So all details, which means costume, makeup, stage management things, props, entries, exits, everything, how to decorate the stage, including how much to pay the actors, musicians, how to all the various rituals that need to be conducted in relation to performance. Kramadipika has all these details. So every play has these three: the Natakam, the primary text; Attaprakaram, the actor's manual; stage manual. So basically, Attaprakaram is a kind of a stylized language, or a language that is a particular kind of language that is very, very convenient to gesticulate. So when I say you can translate any text into gesture, I find myself saying that often, but actually that is not how you do it. Any text needs to be made into an Attaprakaram. Attaprakaram. Atta means performance. Prakaram means, I don't know the good English word. Basically, manual, how to. So the Attaprakaram bhasha. So to write an Attaprakaram for a performance is a special skill that actors develop out of reading many Attaprakarams and getting acquainted with the language and the possibilities and the potential of the language of gestures. So basically, I think what I'll do is, so Ramayana Samkshepam is an Attaprakaram, and I think I'll just start by showing you a few lines of the first few lines of Ramayana Samkshepam with gesture. So how we do it is we say Kaigattuga in Malayalam in our training language. Kaigattuga means to gesticulate, but it is the language that we use. We say, even for class, we say Kaigattam Puvana. We are going to, that is the language that we use. And so what we do is, first we learn the Attaprakaram. Engilo panda Surya Vamsham undai. Sentence by sentence. So the child first says Engilo panda, the word aloud, and then the gesture. Surya. Vamsham. Undai. Long ago, the Sun dynasty existed. So here, just to give you an example, Vamsham, the gesture is this. But actually, when you say Surya Vamsham, that is not enough. You have to do Surya. And you can't do directly Vamsham. You have to do Surya related Vamsham. So it is these kind of details on how to gesticulate that one also learns by learning the Ramayana Samkshepam. To go on, Avide, there, Anekam, many, Rajakanmar, Undai. There, in that dynasty, there were many kings. Avark, for them. Var, avar, bahuvachanam, plural. K, vibhakti. Irippanayikkondu, to reside. Ayodhya, എന്നിങ്ങനെ പ്രസിദ്ധം famous ആയിട്ട് being ഒരു one രാജധാനി kingdom ഉണ്ടായി. So this brings me to actually one very important thing as to why Ramayana Samkshepam is used to transmit gestures instead of children just learning texts of different plays. One reason, like I said, is that in this abridged story, all gestures are included. But the other thing is, without any elaborate abhinayas, the children are going through all the gestures, not only learning the gesture, but also learning a very important aspect, which is the relationship between the hand and the eye. So we all know yato hastas tato drishti. Kutiyattam follows it literally. Yato hastas tato drishti. Wherever the hand goes, the eyes follow. Yato drishtis tato mana. Wherever the mind go, the eyes go, the mind follows. Yato manas tato bhava. Wherever the mind is involved, the bhava is born. And wherever there is bhava, wherever there is emotion, there is aesthetic experience. So even having said that, Yato hastas tato drishti doesn't mean just following the hand with the eye. So it's not only that. Every gesture has a particular way in which the eyes follow the hand. So it is very particular. For example, if there is a gesture Surya, the eyes just follow the hand first. Then the eyes have to see the rising sun. Then the sun becomes hot. And then you become the sun. Or for example, Engilo Panda, the first gesture, first the eyes just follow the movement of the hand, then go down into the past, up, long ago. Then you have to emphasize once more with the hand, with the eye, long ago. And so there are sometimes 2 or 3 variations of the same gesture, how to follow with the eyes. Sometimes some actors go in the opposite direction. When the hand goes up, the eyes go down to show long ago. So in this way, every gesture has a very specific way in which the eye should move. And the children are also very exactly taught this design of how the eye should follow the hand for each gesture. And that way they cover all the gestures and practice them through practicing Ramayana Sankshepam. So these are basically some basic things about Ramayana Sankshepam. And very interestingly, I think my father already mentioned this in the previous lecture, the relationship between Hastalakshanadipika and Ramayana Sankshepam is also interesting, because actually we really don't know who wrote the Hastalakshanadipika, why, for what. It's a little bit unclear because only a few of the chapters are found. But what we know that is the family of gestures mentioned in this text is basically the Kerala family of gestures. Kathakali uses it, Mohiniyattam, Kutiyattam. We all use the same family of gestures from the Hastalakshanadipika. And one can only actually imagine that essentially the person who wrote it was trying to record one style or one family of Kutiyattam, is what I have the impression, because just the beginning, the Suryo Raja Gaja Simha, the Vinyogas of Pataka start with Suryo Raja Gaja. And Ramayana Sankshepam, of course, starts with Engilo Vandu Surya Vamsham Undai, Avade Anegam Rajakanmar Undai. So there is that very, very special similarity. But also when you do a comparative study, you'll find many gestures are very similar to what we use in Kutiyattam in our tradition, in Amanur tradition, but many are different. But it's only natural that it could have been one of the family of gesture. Between the families of Kutiyattam practitioners, there are some variations for certain gestures. So it could have been from some specific tradition. But I personally believe that Hastalakshanadipika is very somebody who is trying to document something, and it has to do with Kutiyattam. It's what I understand. So I think that's all I have to say. If there are any questions, otherwise, over to Venu G.
Namaskaram. So I'm very happy that you're all eminent people came to listen to us, especially my great friend Peter Oscarson and Swami Sharidananda. It's a great opportunity to see you all. So, Kapila has already informed the prayoga, the usages of the gestures. The Ramayana story is actually it's a very, very important aspect. How to make the gestures function. the storytelling. Later on, right from the time of Bharata, in his Natyashastra, made a classification of the basic hand gestures and its vinyogas, the usages. Actually, it's a wonderful way of compiling the gestures, but at the same time, we are missing something in between. Because when we get only usages, we do not know where from these usages came. That is very important. If you know only the topic, we are missing certain aspects of this storytelling. Today, I am explaining the second basic gesture called MUDRAKHYam. It's very interesting how carefully they have studied the hand. We have only the 5, 10 fingers, but with that thousands of ideas can be communicated. And how much care has been taken. So in Kerala, Kutiyattam never named the gestures because there is a very powerful storytelling, as Kapila has informed already. There is a whole Ramayana story, there is the whole story of the origin of the universe. There is also this Prapanjolpati, then there is so many other things. And so there is no codification of the basic hand gestures and the usages never occurred. When the compilation of these gestures started, I think around 17th century, together with the development of the Kathakali theatre. The first attempt was, it is known as Karadipika. It is very interesting. Karadipika is a treatise on hand gestures, and we do not have the original text. We have only a little bit from the information which we can gather from a book published in 1926 by the great exponent of Kathakali, Mathur Kunjupilla Panikar. Mathur Kunjupilla Panikar was the guru of all the great performers of the 20th century of the southern style of Kathakali. For me personally, I learned Kathakali from Guru Gopinath. He is a direct disciple of Mathur. Then also Changanu Ramapillai, he is also the disciple of Mathur. Then also from another Ramapillai, Kaidakati Ramapillai, who was the last disciple of Mathur. I have never seen him, but his death was quite early. But he was the greatest from the southern part of Kerala. When he wrote the book, Kathakali Prakashika, it is a very small book, and published in 1926. By the time the other treatise, Hastalakshanadipika, was already published. It was published in print in 1892. From the Kadathanattu Kovilagam, it was published. So first printed edition came out of Hastalakshanadipika. So Mathur is quite aware of the other treatise, but he didn't follow Hastalakshanadipika. He was following only Karadipika. That's a very interesting aspect. Why he followed Karadipika? And not only him, also his disciple Guru Changanu Ramapillai, with whom I worked a lot for this book which I am now bringing out. He also doesn't believe in Hastalakshanadipika. He also followed Karadipika. But Guru Gopinath, when he was getting trained at Kerala Kalamandalam, there was the first time in Kathakali, there was a very systematic teaching of Hastalakshanadipika, and a great scholar, Kuttikrishna Marar, was teaching them. Guru Gopinath has shown me his notebook of those days when I was training under him. I don't know whether still the family has it. It's a very precious document. And he started propagating Hastalakshanadipika. In all his books, he published part of Hastalakshanadipika with the photographs, beautiful illustrations. So he only made Hastalakshanadipika popular in the Kerala tradition. Karadipika, original text, we didn't have it. Actually, my introduction to Karadipika was by one of the chief disciple of Guru Changana Ramapillai. He was also a very famous actor. Mangombu Shivashankara Pillai came to me long ago. And he asked me, do you have any idea about, because I was staying with the Kutiyattam Guru, do you have any information about Karadipika? Or see what he wanted. So I took him to my Guru and they had a very, very long discussion. And my Guruji said finally that if at all there is a text like that, definitely there will be some information in the Atta Prakaram or production or acting manuals. So there is nothing so far. Chakers or Kudiyattam people never heard of Karadipika. So we couldn't go further into it. So the great poet Vallathol, who the founder of Kerala Kalamandalam, also great promoter of Kathakali and other dance forms, he has written a foreword to this little book. He was greatly admiring Mathur Kunjavallavanikar. And in fact, in 1925, Vallathol invited him to come as a chief guru of Kerala Kalamandalam. But Mathur passed away in 1928, very young death. He was in the 50s only. And so his disciple only, Guru Kunjukurup, have been appointed as the chief guru of Kerala Kalamandalam. But Vallathol has written in his foreword, he says, Kathakali Prakashika, this little volume of Mathur, is the first Natyashastra text in Malayalam language. That's very interesting. Usually there is a habit of writing only in Sanskrit. For example, Hastalakshanadipika is in Sanskrit, but Karadipika is in Malayalam. So he welcomed in that first Malayalam, first Natyashastra in Malayalam language. And he says that Mathur is a very great authority, accepted all over Kerala, and he is the right person to do such a treatise. Very interesting thing that Karadipika is a very independent, kind of without having any much influence. Natyashastra is known. Kerala, one of the most authentic copy of the manuscript of Natyashastra was found in Kerala only. So all the scholars are known to Natyashastra. But they don't want to just follow a treatise which is written somewhere in other part of India and which is a national kind of approach. They wanted to be have the regional influence and concept. So they didn't just copy Natyashastra. Natyashastra was here. But what they have taken, the idea of naming the basic gesture and classifying the usages. So in Karadipika, very interesting thing is that there are 24 basic hand gestures, out of which, starting with the mushti pataka, the hastam mudra. So mushti pataka, hasta, this thing, and then come mudra. So this is, whereas Hastalakshanadipika start pataka, mudrakyam, kadagam, mushti. Here mushti is the first hand gesture. This is a very different approach. And then comes the 24 mudras. We will be dealing with so many other things. Then how he gave a definition for the mudra, that is very interesting. He says the forefinger touch the thumb, and he never say any other restriction to the other fingers. So this is wonderful if when we compare to other this thing. So this is the mudra, he says. And with that he says mati, the mind, and the meditation, etc., can be shown, but not much usages are given. So, in all the other treatises which describe hand gestures, nobody has, except Hastalakshanadipika, no other treatise has a mudra in the name of, a hand gesture in the name of MUDRAKHYA. This is also very interesting. And then came Hastalakshanadipika, the another attempt to codify the Kerala hand gestures. There, as Kapila was mentioning about the sun and the king and all these usages, the Hastalakshanadipika has taken from Kutiyattam and other forms. There, this is the MUDRAKHYA. But the slight difference is that the forefinger touching the thumb and the other fingers straight, close and straight. There is great change in the character of the mudra. This is different and this is different. So this is the from Karadipika to Hastalakshanadipika. It looks same, but it's great. It is great. This one is something and this one is something. And this is the major change came from Karadipika to Hastalakshanadipika. Then Hastalakshanadipika become very popular because it is full text is available. It is still, it is not, it's an incomplete work, incomplete and anonymous. Nobody knew. Both Karadipika and Hastalakshanadipika, who is the author, nobody knew. So that was a tendency, to write something, to contribute, but the name of authorship and all these things, they don't bother. Sometimes they ascribe to the king, the ruler. Not only their name, but because patronage was such. If you do a good work, your whole family is saved. If you do a good work in the field of art and submit to the ruling person, because Kerala kings are all highly cultured. So they immediately sanction hundreds of acres of land and this and that, and the whole family is saved. I know many histories of that kind of patronage. So another treatise came, also developed in Kerala, is in the 18th century, Balarama Bharatam. It is in the name of the king, the ruling, Balarama or Maharaja. Anyway, Hastalakshanadipika, we don't know the name, but it is very genuine work. Because Karadipika was not available, so Hastalakshanadipika became very popular. Here you will see so many usages. Whereas in Karadipika, only we say that mind and meditation. Here, this is, of course, I'm not following the Hastalakshanadipika, but I'm following the popular gestures, which is based on Hastalakshanadipika. Like in Kathakali, this is the mind. In Kutiyattam, slightly different. This is the mind. And then in Kathakali, the desire. Same gesture, but in Kutiyattam, it is slightly different. The desire is desire. And the knowledge, and to inform another person, also a hand gesture. happiness is very interesting. This is in the Kathakali, the mind. Happiness. But whereas in Kutiyattam, this head movement is not allowed. So the happiness is this. This is the happiness. And there is also very interesting combination of hand gestures. This MUDRAKHYA with the Suji is a very good combination for like that. For example, it is for the demon. This is in Kathakali. And Kutiyattam, it is this. This is in Kutiyattam, but same mudra turning to Suchi Mukham. Ocean. In Kathakali, it is big, the waves of the sea. In Kutiyattam, it is small. This. Small movement. So, like that, many usages together with only MUDRAKHYA or MUDRAKHYA with other hand gestures, because Hastalakshanadipika, that way it is a complete text. Therefore, it is accepted by all the dance forms and this. Except Kutiyattam has not accepted so far. Especially our tradition is very orthodox tradition, Amanur. They have a manuscript of Hastalakshanadipika in the palm leaf, but they don't follow it. They follow only the storytelling aspect. Now it is come to other treatises, like if you look at Natyashastram of Bharata, they have also mentioned, there is the same hand gesture is there. Bharata says, this is the Aranam gesture. Hold the Aranam, and there from Aranam, the forefinger and the thumb joined. From this. The name is different. Sandamsham is the name. Name and the hand gesture there is nothing, no relationship. Because it is not possible to a particular basic gesture name in a particular meaning. It is only to identify like a human being having different names. Sandamsham, the meaning is damsham is biting, like that. So, but at the same time, we are not in the usages. It is used for all different purposes. So this is called sandamsham. Very interesting thing. This aranam changing this forefinger touching the thumb, and he also say the palm should be curved. When the palm is curved, you can't keep the finger straight. So naturally, so they are very careful to know the character of the hand gesture. They're very careful about giving all these kind of things. Palm curved. So this is actually exactly what Karadipika has written as mudra. This is not Bharata's Sandamsham. So that is one of the thing. So all these, so many things can be depicted with this mudra. Then we have the Balarama Bharatam. Balarama Bharatam says, very casually, that's what I was a little bit astonished. He says, this can be, so many usages can also be used as Jnana Mudra and Chin Mudra. Chin Mudra and Jnana Mudra in the concept of Tantra and spiritual concept, it is so deep. To understand the meaning of the Chin Mudra, the great Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda came all the way, all over India. He was talking, discussing with so many scholars, and finally he came to Kerala. He happened to meet the great sage of the 20th century, Sri Vidyadhiraja Chattambi. From him only he understood what is the impact of Chin Mudra. So many things associated. It's a life-changing hand gesture. But in Natya, we don't take any mudra in the spiritual or any other concept. It is not that all these people are not aware of it. Bharata, up to Abhinavagupta, all these people are great tantrics. They all knew all the details of Tantra, but they knew that this is theater. In theater, we should not get all the in-depth concept of a mudra. Then the communication will be completely. You cannot do anything if you know the meaning of the Chin Mudra or Gyan Mudra in the spiritual concepts. You can't just use it for all the different things. So we have to be very careful. Even that's the reason Bharata didn't say mudra to the hand gestures. He avoided. Kerala it has become because it is Srividya was a very mudra become very common in the because Srividya, because it is beyond the community and upper class and lower class. It was so popular. So we use the term mudra. But at the same time, it is very dangerous. If you take the meaning, all these gestures have also, most of the gestures have the spiritual connection. If you are going and looking into it, then your communication, your free depiction and creativity, everything will be blocked. Because if you get involved so much, you won't be able to do anything else. So that is one thing. And so there he says, this also can be done so many other things, but also can be Chin Mudra and Gyan Mudra. Then we have another treatise on mudra in South India called Bharatarnavam, Kerala, great influence. One of the largest compilation of hand gestures is Bharatarnavam. Bharatarnavam is very interesting, this thing. They also call it as Sandamshanli, not MUDRAKHYA. MUDRAKHYA only Kerala tradition. But they say very interesting thing. If it is kept in front of your chest, it is for the deep thought. Deep thought. But if this is kept in front of your nose, it is the fragrance. So this is, you see, at one side it's deep thought, and another side the fragrance. So this much space change, the idea can also change. So these are the things about Mudrakhyam. I'm not going to all the usages and all, but since it is the whole idea was to just introduce the language of mudra in relation to our performing arts and in relation to Natyashastra and other things. So we thought that before when the book come out, we will give so much of this kind of demonstrations and seminars to introduce the seriousness of the language. This was the third one. I'm so happy that you all came to listen to us. Thank you so much. Now, I request Peter Oscarson to say a few words. Peter. So many years now.
Thank you. Thank you, Venu G. Very interesting. I'm so happy to see you. Oh, a long time ago. Yes.
Yes. Peter and I worked in World Theatre Project. It was
Mm.
so interesting and so much. It's a great exposure to me about China and many things and many cultures.
Yeah,
Very,
that
very
was
great.
an adventure.
Yes.
Yes. I have greetings to you from Baitao and from Makö. Yes.
Maki is, how is Maki?
Oh, he's 94, I think. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swami Sharadananda. Swamiji Sharadananda. Would you like to say a few words? Sharadananda is a great authority of tantric and other spiritual mudras. She has written few books also. I think she has gone. Okay, so Vinod want to say something? Concluding.
Me. Yeah. Menuji, it's been a wonderful experience. I am quite honored to be a part of this and the journey of this momentous book that is about to come out in a few months. I think it's very important, not just important, but also pivotal in terms of dance documentation, especially on the work with the mudras. I think it is going to be a very valuable document for not just dancers but also practitioners of performing arts across the world. And it covers the whole breadth of your work and the amount of perseverance and determination you've had in terms of getting the document together. Thank you so much. Today was also very wonderful. Both Kapila's explanation, as well as your introduction to what the whole context of background. Very interesting. Some of the things that I didn't know at all and fascinates me. And I obviously have a lot more questions, which I will take up with you separately. Thank you so much for this evening.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.